media sensationalizes their coverage in order to get viewers and listeners. We know that. Why?
You're kidding, really?
Really? That's right. This is America. No, but the point is, right. So if it's very boring and the facts, people are going to tune it out.
No ratings.
If you have a headline that says hypnotized to death,
Woo!
which is one thing I saw.
Wow.
I mean, honestly, I would stop and read that, even though I know that's impossible. I would be like, wow, that's because first of all, death is always a good seller. And hypnosis is something that most people are clueless about, the reality of it. And so because of the mystique through popular culture, people are either fascinated or afraid of it. And I think both of those are probably somewhat inappropriate. But the point is, it's going to get headlines.
But they sell.
They sell advertisers. So my point is, when you look at those headlines, most people don't read past the headlines. And what I find interesting is, as I was reading some of the coverage in the last week or so, is that two things in particular I want to point out that most people don't think about. First, the young man who was I believe the quarterback for the football team who had been hypnotized for improving his athletic performance, he was driving back. He's the one who drove off the road and died in the car accident. He was with his girlfriend. He drove off the road. She claims he went into he had some kind of funny face that he made, and then he drove off the road. What was a footnote there is that he was coming from, I believe, a root canal procedure or some dental procedure. And yet I didn't hear anyone saying, wait a second, could it have been the Novocaine, the laughing gas? Could it have been the pain? Could it have been something to do with dentistry, which is much more risky and dangerous than hypnosis?
It's a chemical, of course.
Of course, and yet no one talks about that. One other thing, when people think, oh, well, it's, he hypnotized someone, they killed themselves the next day or 6 months later, well, how many people go to psychotherapists or even life coaches? They're not doing hypnosis, and the person already has some issue that's challenging them in their life, and the person happens to kill themselves or die in an accident. No one says, well, wait, talking about your problems killed you. That's bad for you, and the psychotherapist should be sued. No one would say that. The only reason why they can get away with suing a hypnotist, or suing the school board in this case, is because hypnosis is exciting and people don't know much about it.
Right.
And you can sell people on the idea, the lawyers can sell the jury on the idea that this is some, scary, dangerous thing that, should only be handled by someone with special gloves on.
You mentioned about the dental procedure, which could potentially have played a role. How about the sports activity this young man was engaging in? How about if before we go there, let's even think about this. How about if it was his first episode of a seizure and he had an absence seizure, a petit mal, it's called,
from a head injury.
It could have been from the head injury. It could have been because it was just going to manifest like that. And what happens is people get a funny face and they kind of like disconnect. They're like gazing into nowhere and daydreaming. That's what some seizure disorders look like. And then when you try to snap them out of it, and they don't snap out of it until the seizure episode ends. Mm-hmm. So it could have been this. It could have been related to brain injury because he gets whacked all the time when he gets sacked.
Right. So
nobody knows. And the NFL just proved that there's brain injury, I think, in 70% of football players. So why not?
All I'm asking the listeners to do is be critical thinkers. I'm not saying believe what I'm saying and every single word I'm saying is true. What I'm saying is think for yourself and don't just buy what the media is telling you when you see a headline, because the truth is there are many possibilities that could have explained these unfortunate tragic events with these kids. And what I'm saying is what we know based on our day-to-day work is that hypnotizing someone in and of itself or self-hypnosis is completely safe. There are no side effects other than relaxation. There's no real risk to the experience because people hypnotize themselves without realizing it automatically a dozen times a day. So that it's preposterous and unfortunate that it's linked that the hypnosis led to their death, because I can't see in any way that that's possible.
You know that you mentioned something interesting. I've realized that when I'm doing a task that is mechanical, repetitive, doesn't take much thinking because you already know it. For instance, washing the dishes, doing the dishes,
mm-hmm.
you kind of go into a trance-like state. You're not trance-like state. You're hypnotized in a way. You're relaxed. You're very focused, and maybe you're thinking of a project. And that thought process is going out in so many beautiful directions. There's no drug, there's no influence, you're perfectly conscious, but just a mechanical action gets you, like a mantra. A mantra can do that for you.
Sure.
Breathing exercises in yoga can do that for you. Prayer does it for people.
Oh,
Have you seen people in churches that they look like they are mesmerized? Let's use that word. They are.
Tribal dances.
Tribal
for
dances
some
do it.
cultures, yes.
Absolutely. That drum beat, that
the drum
primitive.
beating.
It's amazing the many ways we can hypnotize ourselves.
Well, can I bring it to the more mundane?
Let's go.
Driving in a car.
Reading a book.
But think about it. When you drive in a car and you're in a familiar area, you're driving on the highway or in the city, and you get there and you wonder how you got there.
Right.
And you're like, wait, that's called highway hypnosis. No, there was no swinging pocket watch. There was no principal. There was no hypnotist. The point is, the person did it because that's what the brain does. When you watch a movie and you get so enmeshed in the movie that you respond emotionally to it, that's a form of hypnosis called emotional suggestibility. When you, like Sheena mentioned, reading a book, a novel, Harry Potter,
even in
sci-fi.
Conversation with people,
right.
You're so engrossed, you're just so connected that is also a state of hypnosis.
And with books, it's also true. Some
yes.
books I enjoy so much, I don't want to finish them. So
yeah.
I start reading 2 or 3 more other books so I can piecemeal this one and enjoy
you're
every.
so
I
focused.
get into it so much.
Yeah.
It's awesome. That's a form of hypnosis then. Huh?
And so is when people watch their favorite TV show, whatever the hit du jour is. It's like, oh my God, I have to watch Mad Men or whatever the vampire show is of the day, and they know logically it's not real, but emotionally it feels real. The most important thing is to make sure that the practitioner of anything, whether it's hypnotism, dentistry, massage, is trained, is certified, is properly qualified. And do your own background research. Ask for look for reviews, look for referrals. Most of our business comes from referrals, so the people who come to us already know someone in their life who has benefited from the experience. And so while it's not a panacea, it doesn't solve everything, and it doesn't work perfectly for everyone. It's simply a methodology, hypnotism, that helps people make better use of their mind. The real danger of hypnosis for people is not what you find in the office of a skilled and a certified practitioner like us and others like us. The danger comes from watching TV, and hypnosis is basically when someone is in a relaxed, focused state and they're much more receptive to information. That information can be helpful and useful, like a trained hypnotist will give, or it can be something that is trying to get you to buy stuff like on the media and the TV, and when you watch the news and it makes you scared, and then you go to commercial and it tells you to buy prescription drugs, alcohol, and junk food, and buy more stuff you don't need. That's why people are hypnotized to do that.
And that makes perfect sense. Or they just want to keep you tied to the boob tube so they can keep selling more stuff to you, and that's something that's happening. Television handles reality in a very unique way. For it to sell, only for it to sell.